The main Belfast to Dublin railway line is open again after this morning's derailment of a hijacked train at Gorawood near Newry. The driverless train, which had been hijacked by gunmen just south of Newry, jumped the rails at a sharp bend, and although 15 wagons loaded with beer and stout toppled over, the 2 locomotives stayed on the track. Army explosives experts checked the train for bombs but declared it safe shortly before noon, and trains are now running again. The driver and guard, who'd been ordered off the train by the armed gang, are not injured. Murder squad detectives are appealing for information about an attack on a Belfast man near his home early on Saturday morning. 28-year-old Mr. Hugh O'Halloran from Moyard Park, Belfast, died in hospital last night from the injuries he received. Mr. O'Halloran was attacked by a gang of youths wielding hurling sticks as he walked home about 2 o'clock in the morning. Anyone with information about the attack is asked to phone police at Belfast 46626 or use the confidential phone Belfast 652 155. A man's been charged in Belfast with the weekend hold-up at a shop in the Shankill when North Belfast MP John McQuaid disarmed a gunman. 23-year-old John Edgar, a housing executive groundsman from Glencairn Way, was remanded in custody until Friday, accused of the attempted armed robbery of a grocery shop at Carnan Street, not far from Mr. McQuaid's home. There are prospects for an early release for British-born heiress Rose Dugdale. Irish bishops are to ask the government in the Republic for an amnesty for some prisoners to mark the Pope's visit to Ireland. So far, the government has made no comment on the bishop's proposal. Sources say no terrorists will be released, but Mr. Lynch and his cabinet could find themselves in a dilemma over Dugdale. She's halfway through a 9-year sentence for an £8 million art robbery and would be released next year with remission. She has a 4-year-old son who's being cared for by guardians. The bishops, who'll not be distinguishing between different categories of prisoners, will suggest that prisoners could be freed on humanitarian grounds or if they've served the bulk of their sentences. One senior Dublin government official said today the chances of her release cannot entirely be ruled out. Meanwhile, a television and radio theme tune for the Pope's visit has been recorded by a 32-strong English choir from a Protestant church. The theme tune is being prepared by the Church of Ireland choir at Holy Trinity Church of England in Cookham, beside the River Thames. The catchy new hymn, entitled Let the Bells Ring, was originally written for the Queen's Jubilee in 1977. The Cookham Church Choir has made several LPs of Christmas carols and other church music. The father of Willie Gallagher, the Strabane youth serving a 12-year jail sentence for bombing Strabane British Legion Hall, is staging a hunger strike at Knock during the Pope's visit there. Mr. Brendan Gallagher, who's been protesting his son's innocence, is staging the demonstration as the latest part of his campaign for his son's release. Earlier this year, Mr. Gallagher stood in the general election against the then Secretary of State Roy Mason in his Barnsley constituency. Mr. Gallagher says from now until after the visit, he'll eat only oranges and drink tea. Thieves have stolen almost £600 worth of city bus tokens in a raid on a confectionery shop in Glengormley. The raiders broke into the shop on Fairview Road last night, and as well as the tokens, they also got away with cash and cigarettes. Police want anyone who's offered tokens for sale under suspicious circumstances to contact them at Newton Abbey 66111. 100 residents of the Lower Shankill estate in Belfast have staged a sit-in at local housing executive offices in protest over breakdowns in the supply of heating from their district heating plant. Householder Mrs. Annie Morrison explains the reasons for the residents' anger.
Our heating has been off 3 weeks, and previous to that it was on for a few days and off again for another 3 weeks. This has been going on this last 2 years. I think so. They have put meters on the radiators to measure what heating the people are using. They have stated to the people that they would get rebates back, and these meters have been on the radiators for 2 years and no one has received rebates back yet.
A housing executive spokesman admitted there had been problems with the supply, but said they'd been doing their best. A 50-year-old man who was attacked and beaten up on the Peace Line at Cooper Street on Saturday night had to have 48 stitches inserted in his head and face. In court today, 25-year-old Thomas McMahon from Cawnpore Street and Paul McKenna, aged 28, from Cullen Ward Street, were accused of causing the man grievous bodily harm. They were remanded in custody for a week. The Irish government ordered the country's rugby union to withdraw its invitation to a South African rugby team to tour Ireland. From Dublin, Tom McGurk reports.
The Irish government has acted to stop the Irish part of the proposed six-match tour of Britain and Ireland by a South African Barbarians rugby team. Last night, Foreign Minister Michael Kennedy told the Irish Rugby Union that if they did not cancel their invitation to the tourists, the government would take the necessary steps to cancel the tour. Mr. Kennedy expressed regret that this might be seen as big stick action against the rugby union, but he added sporting links with South Africa were simply not on. The president of the Irish Rugby Union said this morning, "We will do exactly what the government tells us to do. We are only interested in rugby." This is Tom McGurk for IRN in Dublin.
The opening of today's session of the conference on Zimbabwe-Rhodesia has been postponed. From Lancaster House, here's Peter Sharp.
The Zimbabwe-Rhodesian Prime Minister, Bishop Abel Muzorewa, and his delegation were just about to leave their hotel for the talks when they received word that the Patriotic Front didn't want to go ahead with this morning's session. The guerrilla leaders, Joshua Nkomo and Robert Mugabe, are angry at the agenda of the talks, which centers around alterations to the country's constitution, a constitution they regard as totally irrelevant. They want to begin the conference by talking about ways to end the war, and only after agreement has been reached on this can the constitution be discussed. The conference is scheduled to resume at 3 o'clock this afternoon. In the meantime, the Patriotic Front will be ironing out their formal approach to this first vital session. Peter Sharp, IRN, at the Rhodesia Conference.
Union leaders are squaring up for a fight against Leyland's plans to cut 25,000 jobs, and the opening salvos are expected to be fired tomorrow in Coventry, where the Triumph plant is threatened with closure. Colin Palmer reports.
The unions are moving